Builder Hall 1. This looked promising, but Supercell had no idea they were creating one of the most controversial game modes in Clash history. Builder Hall 1 launched in May 2017 as this completely separate village experience that seemed genius at first. You needed Town Hall 4 to repair this broken boat and sail to a new shore with its own economy, buildings, and troops. The single master builder would handle all construction, while the gem mine gave you free gems forever. Your map was tiny compared to the main village, which meant every single trap placement and building position actually mattered. You only had one troop at this level, the Raged Barbarian, that got speed and damage boosts for 8 seconds. The whole point was simple: fight other players in versus battles to get resources and upgrade your village. You attacked someone's base while they attacked yours simultaneously, and whoever got more stars won. This created a compact strategic experience where every deployment decision had massive impact. But nobody realized the versus battle system was already creating major issues with its guaranteed 50% win rate that made progression feel random and frustrating. The foundation looked solid, but contained the seeds of community discontent that would grow into massive problems. Builder Hall 1 seemed revolutionary, but Builder Hall 2 was about to reveal the first cracks in the system. Builder Hall 2 expanded the strategic possibilities, but it also made the fundamental flaws more obvious. This level unlocked your first real defenses, with the Archer Tower providing reliable range damage and the double cannon offering devastating close-range firepower against ground troops. You could finally build proper defensive layouts instead of relying on just the basic structures from Builder Hall 1, which was cannon and a push trap. The additional resource storage meant longer upgrade times, and the expanded army capacity let you bring more troops into battle. This felt like genuine progression, as your base started looking like an actual fortress instead of a collection of repair projects. The enhanced defensive options created the first real strategic decisions about base layout and trap placement. You had to think about protecting your key buildings while creating effective defensive zones, but the versus battle systems problems were becoming more apparent as players reached this level. The head-to-head format meant every win required someone else to lose, creating this zero-sum environment that felt increasingly frustrating. Resource progression was gated by daily limits that made advancement feel artificially slow. Players were starting to realize that optimal strategy might not align with traditional Clash progression methods. Builder Hall 2 provided important defensive foundation, but Builder Hall 3 was about to introduce the mechanics that would define the early meta. Builder Hall 3 brought the defensive tools that created the first real strategic complexity, but also revealed how unbalanced everything was. The Hidden Tesla added a surprise element that could completely change battle outcomes by staying invisible until enemies got close. Firecrackers provided essential damage against flying troops, and the Crusher became this devastating area damage defense that could eliminate entire groups of troops. You also got access to more sophisticated traps and increased resource production that made progression feel more substantial. These defensive additions created the first genuine strategic depth in base building, as you had to consider sight ranges, damage types, and positioning relationships between different defenses. The variety of defensive options meant multiple viable base designs instead of just one optimal layout, but the combat system's limitations were becoming obvious to experienced players. The small army sizes and limited troop variety meant battles often felt repetitive and predictable. The trophy-based loot system was creating situations where progression speed depended more on matchmaking luck than actual skill. Community discussions were starting to focus on system problems rather than strategic innovation. Builder Hall 3 established important defensive fundamentals, but Builder Hall 4 was about to introduce new complexity while the Hero Revolution waited one level ahead. Builder Hall 4 expanded strategic complexity with crucial defensive additions while building toward the Hero Revolution coming next. The Guard Post added defending troops that could disrupt enemy strategies, creating the first active defensive element that required strategic positioning and timing considerations. Air Bomb provided crucial early-game counters to air attacks, establishing the foundation for balanced air and ground combat that would define higher levels. The Clock Tower became a defining feature, offering temporary speed boosts to all buildings and resource collectors that would shape builder base's pace of play for years. Additional building capacity allowed for more sophisticated base layouts with multiple defensive zones and strategic choke points. Resource production increased significantly, making upgrades feel more substantial and progression more rewarding. These additions created genuine strategic depth where understanding defensive synergy and building placement became essential for success. But Builder Hall 4 also revealed the growing issues with the loot system. Trophy count determined resources, not Builder Hall level, which meant rushing to higher levels provided immediate advantages over maxing current levels. The gap between rushed and max players was becoming more apparent as army capacities and building limits increased. Community debates about optimal progression strategy were intensifying as mathematical advantages of rushing became undeniable. Builder Hall 4 established crucial defensive foundations, but Builder Hall 5 was about to revolutionize everything with the first builder base hero. Builder Hall 5 revolutionized combat with the first builder base hero and completed the defensive toolkit that would define the mid-game meta. The battle machine was unlike anything in the main village, featuring an electric hammer ability that could be used multiple times per battle after cooldown periods. This created dynamic combat where hero management became as important as troop deployment. The reusable hero ability transformed a attack strategies from simple deployment to active battlefield management throughout extended engagements. The multi-mortar provided devastating splash damage against group troops, creating the first real larger area denial defense. Additional building slots allowed for more complex base layouts with multiple defensive zones and strategic choke points. The expanded army capacity meant battles were more intense than before and required more sophisticated troop management throughout extended engagements. Resource production increases made upgrades feel substantial, while the hero progression added a completely new dimension to long-term development. The strategic complexity had evolved far beyond the simple early levels, requiring deep understanding of hero timing, troop combinations, and defensive positioning. Players needed to master both offensive coordination and defensive prediction to succeed consistently. But the underlying system problems were becoming impossible to ignore, as optimal progression clearly favored rushing over maxing despite community preference for traditional advancement. Builder Hall 5 represented the completion of core combat mechanics, but Builder Hall 6 was about to create the first major meta war with deliberately unbalanced additions. Builder Hall 6 created the first real meta war by introducing a completely overpowered troop and its perfect counter simultaneously. The Night Witch was absolutely insane, flooding battlefields with bat swarms that could overwhelm almost every existing defense in the game. This air troop fundamentally changed how battles worked by creating sustained pressure through continuous bat spawning rather than single devastating attacks. But Supercell simultaneously introduced the Roaster, a defense specifically designed to counter bat-based strategies with volleys of scalding plasma that devastated swarm units. This created the first deliberate rock-paper-scissors dynamic where every strategic decision revolved around Night Witch adoption or counter strategies. Additional building limits enabled more complex layouts, while expanded troop capacity allowed for sophisticated army compositions. The meta became completely polarized around mass Night Witch strategies versus roaster-focused defensive designs. Every base layout had to consider bat swarm scenarios, and every attack strategy needed plans for dealing with roaster placements. This update proved Builder Base would evolve with unique content rather than simply mirroring the main village progression. The Night Witch and Roaster duo became the central point of all strategic discussions and community debates. Builder Hall 6 established distinct strategic identity, but Builder Hall 7 was about to split the community in half with its progression revelations. Builder Hall 7 created intense strategy debates by exposing the fundamental progression flaws while adding powerful new content. The dropship added versatile air support that deploys skeletons who deal damage to structures, creating new tactical possibilities for air-heavy army compositions. The giant cannon provided devastating single-shot damage that could pierce through multiple ground units, making it formidable against massed ground attacks. An additional army camp increased strategic complexity while raising the skill ceiling for both offensive and defensive play, but none of the new content mattered compared to what this update revealed about optimal progression strategy. The trophy-based loot system meant rushing to Builder Hall 7 provided immediate army camp advantages over max Builder Hall 6 players. Higher troop counts translated directly to higher trophy ranges, and better resource income, creating mathematical evidence that rushing was objectively superior to maxing. This contradicted everything Clash of Clans had taught players about progression, creating a heated community debate between rushing advocates and traditional maxing supporters. The debate became intense as both sides had valid arguments backed by mathematical evidence. Rush players consistently defeated max players despite significantly weaker defenses, proving the system had fundamental issues. Builder Hall 7 destroyed community consensus about optimal strategy, but Builder Hall 8 was about to secretly test the future of combat design. Builder Hall 8 introduced the prototype that unknowingly predicted Builder Base's revolutionary future. The Power P.E.K.K.A. seemed like just another tanky troop addition, but her overcharge ability represented a fundamental shift in combat philosophy. Unlike previous troops with passive benefits, the Power P.E.K.K.A. required manual activation of her explosive death ability for maximum value. This created the first tactical timing element where player skill directly impacted troop effectiveness beyond simple deployment decisions. The Mega Tesla provided high damage chain lightning that could quickly eliminate group troops, especially high hit point units that traditionally dominated ground attacks. These additions increased strategic depth while maintaining the accessibility that made Builder Base appealing to casual players. But the Power P.E.K.K.A.'s manual ability was secretly testing something revolutionary. Her explosion timing required genuine tactical thinking and battlefield awareness rather than passive stat advantages. One perfectly executed overcharge could completely change battle outcomes, demonstrating the potential for skill-based combat mechanics. This prototype ability-driven design would eventually transform every troop in Builder Base, moving from passive stat increases to active tactical management. The Power P.E.K.K.A. was foreshadowing a complete combat philosophy overhaul that wouldn't arrive for several more years. Builder Hall 8 planted the seeds of tactical evolution, but Builder Hall 9 was about to introduce the quest that would define millions of players' entire Builder Base experience. Builder Hall 9 introduced the ultimate long-term objective that drove engagement while simultaneously creating the conditions for eventual abandonment. This level unlocked access to the Auto Hut, the robotic assistant that represented a major goal for millions of Clash players. The quest to unlock Auto required gearing up 3 main village buildings, upgrading a Builder Base troop to level 18, upgrading a defense to level 9, and achieving combined hero levels of 45. This created one of the most demanding progression paths in Clash of Clans, with the hero requirement alone taking months of dedicated grinding. The Hog Glider and Lava Launcher were added as new content, providing ground-targeting air units and long-range defensive capabilities respectively. But these additions were completely overshadowed by the auto quest that became the singular focus of builder base engagement. The quest tied both game modes together with the reward of a 6th main village builder, creating compelling long-term motivation for continued play. Millions of players invested significant time pursuing this goal, making auto the primary driver of builder base activity for years. But the quest contained a design issue that became apparent over time. Once players unlocked auto, many considered builder base complete and reduced their engagement significantly. The game mode lacked compelling purpose beyond the 6th builder quest, creating engagement challenges after completion. Builder Hall 9 provided essential long-term motivation while revealing the need for sustainable progression systems. Builder Hall 10. Builder Hall 10 arrived in 2023 as the centerpiece of the most ambitious mobile game overhaul ever attempted. This wasn't just another level addition, it was the foundation of Builder Base 2.0 that completely rebuilt every aspect of the game mode from scratch. The Electrofire Wizard represented the ultimate evolution of tactical troop design, with dual mode functionality that could be manually switched during battle. Inferno mode provided increasing single target damage, while Electro mode delivered bouncing lightning attacks against multiple enemies. The Expo added high damage, long-range defensive capabilities that required careful positioning and strategic consideration. But the real revolution was the complete system overhaul that addressed major community concerns from the previous 6 years. The versus battle system was completely removed and replaced with traditional multiplayer mechanics where players attacked independent bases for star-based rewards. Multi-stage attacks eliminated the death ball defense problem by requiring troop conservation and tactical resource management across 2 separate battle phases. Every troop received manual abilities that transformed combat from passive stat-based interactions to active skill-based tactical management. The original auto quest was replaced with the new Bob quest, while players who had already unlocked auto received a permanent second builder for builder base itself. This gave the game mode its own independent progression path and long-term purpose beyond just unlocking main village benefits. Builder Hall 10 represented the complete philosophical reset that transformed builder base from a secondary quest into a viable, engaging game mode with genuine strategic depth and sustainable progression systems. Auto Hut. The Auto Hut became the major objective that millions of players would grind for months to unlock, but getting it led many to reduce their builder base engagement entirely. This robotic assistant represented a significant builder base achievement, providing the coveted 6th builder for the main village that would dramatically accelerate progression. The quest requirements were demanding, requiring players to gear up 3 main village buildings, upgrade a builder base troop all the way to level 18, upgrade a defense to level 9, and reach combined hero machine levels of 45. The hero requirement was the longest and most time-consuming part, requiring months of dedicated grinding just to level up the battle machine and any additional heroes. This quest became a primary long-term objective that drove builder base engagement for millions of players over several years. The reward was valuable enough that it created compelling motivation to invest significant time and effort into what many considered a secondary game mode. The quest successfully tied both villages together with meaningful progression connections that made builder base feel essential rather than optional. But the auto quest revealed a sustainability issue over time. Once players finally unlocked their 6th builder, many considered builder base completely finished and had reduced reason to continue playing. The game mode lacked compelling long-term purpose beyond this singular achievement, creating engagement challenges after quest completion. Millions of players significantly reduced builder base activity after months of dedicated grinding, leaving many bases with minimal ongoing progression goals. Bob Control. Bob Control arrived in 2023 as the solution to builder base's biggest sustainability problem, providing long-term purpose beyond a single quest completion. The new Bob quest maintained challenging requirements similar to the original auto quest, requiring players to gear up 3 main village buildings, upgrade a builder base troop to level 18, upgrade a defense to level 9, and reach combined hero machine levels of 45. But the reward structure was completely revolutionized to solve the abandonment problem that had affected the original system. Players who completed the Bob quest unlocked a permanent 6th builder for their main village, exactly like the original auto reward. However, the master builder became a permanent 2nd builder for builder base itself, giving the game mode its own independent progression system. This meant builder base finally had its own long-term utility and purpose separate from main village benefits. Players who had already completed the original auto quest were retroactively given both rewards, ensuring nobody lost progress during the transition to the new system. The Bob quest integrated seamlessly with Builder Base 2.0's other improvements, creating a comprehensive progression path that encouraged continued engagement rather than abandonment after completion. This solution demonstrated Supercell's commitment to learning from past design challenges and creating sustainable long-term progression systems. Bob Control transformed Builder Base from a one-time side quest into a viable permanent game mode with its own compelling reasons for continued play and investment.